Hey guys, Graham from Paragon Performance. Today we're going to talk about how to tune your C8 with HP tuners. Now this is exciting because we've been tuning these cars on the dyno in person. We've been doing some select tuning with customers remotely, actually around the world. We've got a customer in Australia with a ProCharge car. We got a car in Thailand. We've got lots of cars around the US we've started to test with. And now we're ready to open this up to you guys, the general public, so you can do this yourselves at home. So I'm going to break down all the steps of this process and show you guys what it takes. And if you're not comfortable doing this yourself at home, that's okay. This video could still be very helpful to you if you have a local performance shop who doesn't tune C8s, but is familiar with the process of tuning cars in general. They could watch this video, you could bring them your car, and they could help you do the entire process start to finish so you can end up with our tune on your car. So the process to tune your C8, if you haven't already done so, starts with unlocking your ECU. So this is what your ECU looks like. On the 20 to 22 model cars, it is actually up in the tunnel of the car, in the middle of the car. So that means getting it out really requires getting the car up on a lift. If you don't have access to a lift or happen to have a lift in your garage, definitely consider seeking out some professional help to get this out of your car because it does have to come out. If you have a 23 plus, it's going to be in the bumper on the driver's side. Much easier to get to with the car on the ground, so perhaps more do-it-yourself friendly, if you will. So once you have the ECU out of the car, that gets sent to HP tuners to be unlocked. We facilitate the entire process, the shipping and everything, so you can get that done. Once this goes back in your car, then the process picks up with the MPVI3 and the HP tuner software. And we're going to go into detail today showing you exactly how to use all that. In addition to unlocking the ECU, it does require 8 credits from HP tuners to license the car for the first time. Once you've unlocked your ECU, once you've licensed it, it is yours to tune for the rest of its life. That means you don't have to keep paying license fees, credit fees, you just pay for tuning. So those one-time costs, they're kind of expensive, but they set you up for the life of the car. As part of the process with us, you will fill out a form and give us all your modifications and your fuel types. In some cases, you might just be purchasing a staged flash from us that matches specific mods, where you're just going to flash the car and enjoy it, and only log it if you need to. In some cases, you might do a remote tune with us, either by taking logs on the road or lining up a dyno appointment to take logs on the dyno. In that case, you're going to use the software to actually data log the ECU, and you're going to send that back to us so we can revise your tune and send an update. So we'll cover all that today as well. So the ECU is already unlocked on our car here. We're going to jump right in and start showing you guys where the process picks up from there. So now we're going to cover reading, licensing, and flashing your ECM for the first time. Now this is a bit of a delicate process. HP Tuners does make it as simple as possible. They give you all the prompts, but it's definitely good to watch this video, read the documentation that we have available, and go through it a number of times to make sure you completely understand the process before you get started, because there are some steps here that need to be done correctly to make sure the ECM gets flashed correctly and gets reset correctly so everything runs and drives like it should. I'm going to show you guys exactly how that works. Now, to get started, we already assume that you have your ECM unlocked and put back in the car. It's still going to be a completely stock tune at that point when it's back in the car. So what we have to do first is read the stock tune from the car, except we're not actually reading it from the ECU on these cars. We're actually going to be essentially retrieving it from the server at HP Tuners. They extract a copy of it during the process of unlocking the ECM, and when we hook up with our MPVI3, it's going to go retrieve that file and supply it to you, and then you will supply it to us so we can apply your changes to your tune, send it back for licensing, and get flashed. Now I know that probably sounds a bit complicated, but we're going to go through it step by step so you guys understand and can see exactly what that looks like. To do all the reading and flashing, you're going to need primarily 2 things. One is a Windows laptop, and 2 is the MPVI3. Now if you've purchased a tuning package from us, we're going to supply you with one of those. A Windows laptop is typically easy to come by. That's what's going to run the software. The software you need is available on hptuners.com under the downloads. You're going to be looking for the VCM Suite Beta. It's important to get the beta because at the present time of this video, only the beta supports the C8. So download that, get it all installed, and then we're ready to get started with the reading part. The first thing we're going to do is plug the MPVI3 into your OBD port, which is down on the left side, just under the edge of the dashboard. You're going to plug in your USB cable to the MPVI3 and then plug that into your laptop. The first thing we're going to do is open up VCM Editor, and we're going to do what's called Resync Interface. And what that's going to do is get your credits downloaded and associated with your device so we can flash them to the car. So we open up VCM Editor, we go to Help, Resync Interface. You will need an internet connection for all of this process, so do keep that in mind while you're doing this. After the resync is complete, you'll see that 8 credits have been added to your device. If for any reason you don't see 8 credits added, you need to contact us and let us know so we can make sure everything is set up correctly. All right, so we've resynced the interface. We have our 8 credits. We're ready to go ahead and read, license, and flash the ECM. So I'm going to walk you guys through all of that. Now, in some cases, we might be remote connecting with you to kind of walk you through parts of this process, including flashing a custom tune and handling the license for you. In other cases, what we may have you do is simply read the stock tune and then flash it back using a license to go ahead and license the tune right away for your car and then send it to us for the future updates. I'm going to show you guys that process so you see what that looks like. So we've got VCM editor probably still open from doing the sync interface. If not, reopen it. And then we're going to turn the ignition on, and what that means is holding the engine start button for 7 seconds, approximately, no brake pedal, just to bring the ignition all the way on but not start the engine. So ignition all the way on. We can hit our read vehicle button here in VCM editor. You might be prompted with a firmware update to the MPVI3 device. If you are, go ahead and let it do that, and it'll start itself over again when it's all done, and you can pick things up from there. Ours is already up to date, so what I'm going to do here is click the Gather Info button. We also want to make sure our internet connection is good. If you have any internet connection issues, it can cause some problems, so if you're having trouble reading or writing, always make sure you check that. We clicked Gather Info. We can see our vehicle type, we can see our VIN number, everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Read button. Now it's going to tell us that we want to turn the ignition off in order to start the process. So we're just going to click the button one time, let the LCD go black, then hit OK. And then it's going to have us turn the ignition back on, which again means holding the start button until it comes back on. No brake pedal, don't start the engine. Then we hit OK. And now it's going to give us a notice that we've been provided with a stock file for the car. It didn't actually read it off of the ECM because we can't do that. We can only write to it. But a copy essentially gets downloaded and sent to your computer that you can save. Now, you can retrieve your stock file at any point, even after the car's been tuned, in case you need to put the car back to its stock tune file. So save a copy of this on your computer, and if we ask you to send that to us, that's what we're going to need. So we'll hit OK. It's going to prompt us to save. Generally recommend putting your name on it. I'll say Paragon C8 stock tune, and then save that. Now it's going to have that tune file open essentially, and what we're going to do now is show you what it looks like to flash that back into the ECM and license it at the same time. So our ignition's still on in this case. If it wasn't on, we'd turn it on. And then we would go to our right vehicle button and click that. And it's going to say you don't have a license for this file or the vehicle yet. And you're going to click Show License Options. You're going to click the checkbox there for specific to your VIN and 8 credits. If you don't have your 8 credits, resync your interface. If you still don't see them, again, contact us. And then we hit OK. Now, I'm not going to click OK. We already have this car licensed. I just want to show you guys what that looks like. You'd click OK at this point, and then you'd be able to go ahead and write to the vehicle. I'm going to cancel out, but I'm going to open up a file for this car that I can write to it and show you guys what the writing looks like next. So now we're ready to actually flash the ECM. So ignition should still be on. If it's not, again, hold the button, turn it all the way on. You have your tune file open, or if we're sending you a tune file or a tune update, you would open that first. And then from there, in VCM Editor, we will click our right vehicle button. And we will click right again here. Again, reminder, this whole process requires the internet. And then we'll get a prompt here that says turn the ignition off. So we click the button one time, then we hit OK. And now when I click OK, this is actually going to be writing the ECM. This is the point where you don't want to open doors, turn things on or off, or mess with anything. If you're concerned about the battery voltage on your car, make sure you have a tender on it. But once everything's ready to go, we'll hit the OK button. You can see about 17 seconds for the flash on here. This honestly goes very quick. Okay, now we are going to turn the ignition back on. Again, hold for 7 seconds. And then we click OK. And we'll see a green completed right there in the window, and that means we're all done. Now we can close this, and we can close VCM Editor completely if we want, but do not turn off the ignition yet. Before we do that, we want to do a full reset using the VCM scanner tool, so we're going to go over that next here. So now we have VCM scanner opened up, and we will click the blue car icon right here to connect to vehicle. And now we'll have the check engine symbol here for diagnostics and info. We'll click that. And finally, a button here to clear DTCs, or if you need to read DTCs, you can do that as well. If we ask you to send us if you have the check engine light on for any reason and we ask you to read your DTCs, you would click this button here. You can take a picture or copy everything it reads to you and send that to us. And then the clear button down here will do a reset on everything. Now you'll know it works if you pay attention to your running lights. If you're in your garage or somewhere where you can see them, each time you click this button and a reset happens, it will flash those running lights. If you don't see them flash, it's good to click it again and keep an eye out for that. So there we go, just flashed. I got a ding on here. I can do it again. There we go, another flash. You can click the button as many times as you like. Now, if it doesn't clear the DTCs in this step, sometimes you'll find that you can start the engine, but it may not want to leave park and go into gear. And if that's the case, don't worry, just open this back up, try the clear again, and everything should be good from there. At this point, we're ready to exit out. And if you're not doing any logging, you're ready to close everything out, start the car, drive it, and enjoy it. If you do need to take logs, or you're doing custom tuning with us or remote dyno tuning with us, and we're asking you to take logs, then you're going to use VCM Scanner here to do the logging. So we're going to go into that next. All right, so we have the ECM flash now. Now we're going to cover the logging and show you how that works. If you need to take logs for us, whether it's for a custom tune or some diagnosing, this is how that process works here. So we'll turn the ignition on by itself first before we start it. Get the window rolled up. Now we are strapped down to our dyno right now, so I can show you guys kind of how this stuff actually works and give you an idea of what we like you to log if you're going to log. You know, if you're doing this on a dyno remotely with us, that's perfectly fine. It would be a similar process. If you are doing this on the street, please be mindful of the laws and safety. Don't go out in traffic and do crazy high-speed logs. We'd never ask you for that. Make sure you go somewhere safe where you can take the logs that we need you to do. We're never going to ask you to do anything too crazy. So I've got VCM Scanner open here. I'm going to connect to the vehicle. Oftentimes, if we're having you log, we're going to send you a channels file. You would click the channels, open channel config here, and choose what we send you. It might be in your downloads, depending on where you've saved it. So you would open the file we sent you so that it makes sure it logs the things that we want you to log. And now we can click the red Start Scanning button here. Now at this point, it's going to show you some live data, and it's also recording as well. When we're done recording, we hit the stop button, and from there we can save the file of whatever we have captured. So that's how this works. I'm going to go ahead and start it up while it's logging here. And we'll see RPM, we'll see airflow, we'll see everything that's being logged. Don't worry too much about what's particularly on your screen. It's going to be capturing everything that we need, and when I go back over it, I can look at it however I need to. And then generally what we're going to ask you to log is oftentimes a cold start, so we can see how that behavior works. We're also going to ask you to keep it logging while it's warmed up so we can see the warm idle. We're going to ask you for some driving, which means moderate driving, moderate acceleration, just like you would normally drive the car, going down the road, getting on the highway. Some highway driving is helpful. And then we're going to want to see an acceleration run, typically through at least third gear, maybe part of fourth gear, again, respecting the speed limits and the laws and everything, but we need to see some full throttle data so we can make sure that area is all tuned in like it needs to be. Now you see we've been recording idle here for a while. Let's say we're all the way warmed up. We would go ahead and hit the stop scanning button. And it's important now, before you start recording again and lose everything, you want to save this file. So we click log file, save log file as. It's good to give it a name. If we're doing custom tuning, we're going to usually have revision numbers on your tune. It can be helpful for us to say, let's say this is rev1 underscore cold idle to warm up. Whatever notes you want to put in there is helpful to us, and we'll save that. Now we're ready to click the red button again and start a new log, and we're going to do some driving here. So I'm going to get the dyno ready here, get her into drive, and I got to get this thing into dyno mode here, so kind of bear with me. Just in case you are renting a dyno and operating your C8 on there for some reason, or again, you're a shop that's watching this and wanting to see how this works, to get the car into dyno mode, you simply start it up, you turn traction control off, you get it into drive, manual mode, first gear, and drive at about 9 miles an hour to about 12 miles an hour. First, you'll get a couple lights coming on the right side for traction control and check engine light. And then after a little while, it'll ding again and it'll turn the ABS light on. When the ABS light's on, you are in dyno mode. You can drive the car normally, shift gears, and do everything like that. So now we're essentially simulating driving down the road, recording everything as we go. And you can drive your car in any of the modes you like to drive in. I do recommend during logging for us that at some point you put the car in manual mode and kind of exercise the RPMs a little bit, meaning you don't just let it shift really early and live at low RPM the entire time. Drive it up through the RPMs a little bit so we can see those areas in the tune. Get her up into, cruising speed on the highway or interstate, 70 miles an hour, 6th gear for a little while, 7th gear, 8th gear. Kind of let us see some different RPMs. A little bit of part throttle, like 50% throttle. So there's kind of an idea of a cruising log there. We had took off from idle, we drove up to 70 miles an hour, went through some different gears, a little bit of part throttle acceleration. Again, all that's helpful. So we've come back to a stop. We could stop that, save that log file. Again, we'll call it Rev1, and we'll call it just cruising. And we'll save that. So we have our cruising log done. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the full throttle run. We're on the dyno here, so we're gonna use 4th gear for our runs. If you're doing this, again, out on the street, I can't stress enough, respect the speed limits, be safe. We're not gonna ask you to do anything wild. Generally a 3rd gear pull, a little bit of 4th is fine. If you're renting a dyno to do this, then ask the dyno operator to use 4th gear. So we'll go ahead and get it into drive, manual, turn our dyno brake off here. We'll go ahead and start the logger back up with the record button. We'll get up into 4th gear. Now I like to start the runs from about 2,000 RPM. That means immediately full throttle at 2,000. Let it carry all the way up to the rev limiter, maybe touch it for a moment, and then let off or shift at that point here. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Then once you're done with the run or you're stopped again, you hit the stop button, and just like before, we'll save this log file. We'll call this Rev 1, 4th gear pull. So now we've recorded an idle log, a cruising log, and a full throttle log. You would send all those to us. I would review those, go through everything, and send you an update from there. We've been over the flashing, we've been over the licensing, the tuning, the DTC reading. That pretty much covers everything that you need to understand on how to tune your C8 with us. So there you have it. That's the process of tuning your C8 start to finish. One of the most difficult processes is simply getting the ECM out of the car, especially if it's a 20 to 22 since it's underneath. But once you have that done, once it's been unlocked and it goes back in the car, tuning this car is no different than tuning a C7 or any older GM. It's just a matter of flashing, logging, doing updating from that point, which we take care of for you. So if you feel comfortable with doing the tuning process at home, now you can do that with us. If you don't feel comfortable, we do recommend reaching out to a performance shop near you, and if they don't tune C8s, but they at least know how to assist with tuning vehicles, they can watch this video and they can see how that process works, and they can work with us directly to help you. So if you guys are interested in tuning your C8, head over to paragonperf.com, check out our tuning options. If you guys have questions, call us, send an email. If you guys have questions on the process or anything that we covered today, leave them in the comments and we're happy to answer those for you. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see some more content. As you can hear with this car as we were doing it today, it's clearly got a big cam in it. We've been doing heads, cam, flex fuel, and some fun stuff with this car. We're going to be shooting that content here very soon and sharing that with you guys. So stay tuned for more stuff like that. Buy our tunes. See you later.